Hello everyone, this is part 19 of What If Naruto Was Madara's Brother, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Naruto stared at the enemy commander who glared at him defiantly. But instead of arrogance, he saw the grim determination in Dane Nara's eyes. The clan head was well aware that a defeat here or retreat could spell the end of not just the daimyo's rule but his entire dynasties, and if those monarchs fell from power, then the Nara clan would lose their protection, making them open targets for the Uchiha and Senju. Those two ancient clans had not forgotten the everlasting defiance the Naras had shown to them over the thousands of years and would make them pay for it dearly in if not outright annihilation. Even the samurai's livelihood depended on their service to the daimyo. If that man's rule was overthrown, then they would become jobless and always be looked down upon by shinobi. They had no choice but to fight. The same was not the case for the common civilian soldiers, shogun and mercenary warriors. These thousands of fighters were trained to defeat great armies and even ninjas, but none of them had the first idea as to how they could defeat a Biju. They would all be before they could even harm a hair on Kurama's body, and their fear was clearly evident for Naruto to see. Still, their commander had decided to fight, and it was their obligation to follow him no matter the consequences. Despite the perilous situation, the 5,000-strong samurai heavy cavalry was the first to charge on Dane Nara's command in order to stop Kurama, who was charging towards the royal army. It was a sight not a single person present here would ever forget. No matter how hopeless the situation was, the samurais charged forward with hundreds of them their swords trying to take out Kurama's legs. To their dismay, not even a single sword could make a tiny scratch on the Biju's tough legs. Naruto grimaced when Kurama roared furiously before his tails wildly over the samurai cavalry. Within seconds, hundreds of samurai and the poor warhorses were being crushed to death. So bad was their fate that not even a body was left to recover by the time Kurama pummeled them into the ground. He should be feeling overjoyed on seeing his enemies like flies, but the sight only filled him with more sadness as these brave men were for a lost cause. He heard Kurama roar as hundreds of Nara attached their shadow binding technique all over the Biju's legs. Now it ends, whispered Naruto. The furious Biju opened its mouth, and to the horror of the Naras they saw that while their shadows had trapped the beast for now, it had not allowed them any control over the beast's other actions. A fact they realized too late as Kurama started creating a massive Bijudama. The royal army paled and most of the mercenary ninjas started fleeing instantly, so did many civilian soldiers. They had lost what little courage they had left on seeing the monstrosity the beast was about to unleash. Even if they couldn't feel chakra, they could see what was about to unleash was big. And then something happened. Madara was witnessing the most memorable battle of his life. His eyes could not believe the power of his brother's pet beast, which was just about to go up another notch as it started forming a Bijudama until Naruto knelt and placed a hand on his friend's head. The Biju stopped. No words were spoken, but the massive ball of chakra being created by the fox shattered. The fox sighed but nodded in resignation as Naruto jumped off the beast and landed gracefully across the battlefield. The remaining samurai cavalry flinched at the sight of him, and even if they wanted to attack him, Kurama's menacing eyes dared him to do such a thing and face the penalties. Tajima and many other Uchiha growled in frustration when Naruto started walking towards Dane Nara and his army. Honorable fool, hissed Tajima. But before he could move to save his idealistic son, it was Naori who placed a hand on his shoulder. Don't, she warned. He'll get himself said Tajima heatedly, earning a nod from Madara, who also looked ready to charge in order to protect his brother. Naori watched her youngest nephew walk calmly towards the enemy army. She had watched this boy grow up before her, and what she saw today was not something she had ever seen before. You have grown up, Naruto. He knows what he's doing. Trust him, she declared, leaving no room for doubt, making Tajima and Madara sigh, but they did step down, making the others do the same as all their eyes shifted towards the boy in golden armor who stepped towards Dane Nara. Both armies watched the Nara commander and Uchiha stand before each other at a respectable distance. Quite a beast you got there, commented Dane without any sarcasm. The man was simply stating the hard and bitter fact. That I have, agreed Naruto, keeping his face set in stone. Why are you here? Asked Dane curiously. Look at your men. The Nara commander was forced to look at the now 22,000 strong royal forces that were still standing with him. The rest had either fled or were simply butchered by the fox. In each and every person's eyes he saw fear, doubt and despair. I don't want to men needlessly, said Naruto honestly, making the Nara commander sigh. You know I have no choice but to fight, replied Dane bitterly. What if you don't have to? Questioned Naruto sincerely. Dane blinked and looked at the young Uchiha before him. There was not a shred of treachery or hidden agenda in those eyes, this boy. Neither Uchiha or Senju will spare us if the daimyo is overthrown. My people weren't exactly known to be either clans lapdogs. We valued our independence then and we still value it now. Besides, your father and Tobirama Senju are not known for showing mercy to those who have defied them, pointed Dane Nara frankly. Dane waited for the boy to refute the accusations he had laid against Tajima or even Tobirama. To his surprise, Naruto never flinched and looked him right in the eye. Then retain your independence. Serve neither Uchiha or Senju but whoever is chosen the next ruler of the land of fire. Bend the knee and your clan lives, your soldiers live, your people live, promised Naruto. Dane glanced at Tajima nervously as the Uchiha clan head was glaring at him with cold in his eyes. We all know what your father did to Kento Senju's family, said Dane worriedly. I am not that man. Dane could not help but admire the conviction in those eyes and the sincerity burning in them. He glanced at Tajima again but then looked at Naruto, who never looked away from him. Dane saw Kurama actually nod, much to his shock, suggesting the beast actually supported the boy's offer. Whatever Tajima or Tobirama were capable of, the nine-tailed fox could surely do more harm should he be insulted. And the only way that could happen was if Dane refused this Uchiha before him. Dane looked at his own clansmen and the royal army soldiers. Most of them nodded as he closed his eyes and looked at Naruto with a resigned smile on his face. I never thought I would ever see an Uchiha with honor, said Dane, making Naruto's lips twitch into a faint smile. Let's end this senseless proposed Naruto, as he extended his hand towards the Nara. The said man glanced at him one last time before raising his own hand and joined it with Naruto's. Under these terms, I surrender, declared Dane loudly for every soldier to hear. Madara and his entire army could only gape in shock as one by one each and every royal soldier threw down his weapon and knelt, marking their official surrender. He actually saw the fox smile when Naruto turned back and walked towards his family's army. Naori wanted nothing more than to hug the boy standing before her. It was one thing to mercilessly one's enemy when your victory was assured, but an entirely different matter when you offer that defeated enemy a chance to surrender peacefully. It was a double-edged sword with many risks. History was proof of success and failures behind such moves. Naruto could have wiped out the entire enemy army with the help of his Biju, but he showed mercy. What consequences it would have for him and their people was something only the future would tell them. She restrained herself from hugging the boy as he was currently staring at Tajima, Madara, and all the clan heads along with their entire army right in the eye. Gone was the look of a devoted Uchiha who would do anything for his clan. These were now the eyes of a man who had committed himself to a cause. The daimyo has been captured. The city has fallen and the royal army has surrendered. We have won, declared Naruto calmly. Shock and disbelief fell through the Uchiha army on hearing those words. They all had came here prepared for a fight only to realize that it was already over. Many glanced at the massive fox, a beast that dangerous could have reduced the city to ashes, and yet the capital was still standing, which could only mean Naruto took it by force. While the young dragon was a brave and skilled man with an army of 500 fighters, he would have to go through thousands of royal guards. A feat impossible to accomplish unless he used the beast, or... Tajima was the first to arrive at this conclusion as he narrowed his eyes dangerously at his youngest son, who had the grace to gulp nervously. You have a lot of explaining to do, boy, warned Tajima. Yes, father, agreed Naruto reluctantly. Despite his great victory, the cold glare of his father made him feel like the young boy from his past. Tajima could be very intimidating when he wanted to. Backed by an entire army, the same man could prove disastrous. Naori sensed the rising tension in the air and decided to quickly intervene. Just one glance at Naruto's nervous gaze was enough to show her the boy had done something very bad. Knowing Tajima, he would lash out quickly, and that would not bode well for Naruto's reputation, which was skyrocketing these days among their faction. After seeing what power he was capable of displaying with the Biju, it was best for their faction if they listened to the boy and not alienate him. We shall talk but not here. Understood, she commanded, looking at all the clan heads and her own family. Surprisingly, it was Madara who was the first to agree, which made everyone else fall in line as well. The young Hokage was glancing at the giant fox with a gleam in his eye which Naori didn't miss. The same was the case for many of the more militaristic clan heads. The only thing keeping them from just outright grabbing the beast was Naruto's presence and the prior memory of what the fox could do if enraged. Tajima finally gave a nod, but never once did his cold and merciless eyes leave his sons. You took it upon yourself to ally us with our sworn enemies. Not one man in the large hall didn't flinch on hearing Tajima's thunderous roar. The Uchiha patriarch was fuming in anger, his eyes glaring at his youngest son standing in the center of the hall with a composed look on his face. Naruto held his ground despite the heated glares he received from the various clan heads, not to mention from his own father and brother. Even Naori was taken aback by his choice. The only one standing beside the boy was the fox, who had reduced himself to the size of a small wolf, much to the amazement of the ninjas present in the room. When their force had marched through the city, they had seen the carnage it had gone through and the littering in the streets. Still, the B was minimal, with only 800 allied ninjas in comparison to the 8,500 royal guards and 400 civilians. Hundreds more were injured, but the daimyo was taken prisoner and his 3 sons trying to defend the royal monarch despite Hashirama's best efforts. Most had expected Tajima to instantly attack the weakened Senjus, and probably the Uchiha patriarch would have done so had he not received a pointed stare from the monstrous Biju that made him back down and agree to talk first before waging war again. Still, the capital was tense as a cold war had erupted between the Senju and Uchiha factions. The only thing keeping them from jumping at each other's tea was the presence of the Biju and the responsibility of watching over the surrendered royal army and the Nara clan. In a matter of hours, the oldest dynasty to rule the land of fire had been overthrown. But it didn't matter to Tajima and his supporters, for all they were seeing right now was a foolish boy who not only agreed to marry a Senju but also robbed them of their rightful vengeance. It didn't matter to them that most of them along with their people would be by the time the last Senju was K. Even Madara was for once in agreement with his father, which did not bode well for Naruto. I did what I thought was right, said Naruto tiredly. I can have you beheaded for this, replied Tajima coldly. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. His father was many things, but never once had he made such a threat. A fact which had shocked not just him but every person in the room. It went to show how deep the man's hate for the Senjus went. Father, show too much kindness to your enemies and you'll wake up one day to find your tea. Barked Tajima. Father's right, Naruto. The Senjus are weak right now. Together with our army and the fox we can defeat them, urged Madara passionately, earning many nods from the clan heads. Kurama snorted in disgust, which made Madara narrow his eyes, for his brother had not rebuked the beast for that audacity. They are brothers, Naruto, said Madara sadly. The faces of 3 young boys flashed before Naruto's eyes, and for a moment he wanted nothing more than to join Madara, but then he also the faces of 2 unborn girls that were yet to see the world. Could he allow them to feel the pain he had? Could he willingly let them be born into this savage world? Could he allow them to watch their siblings for a petty feud? He and everyone else in the room got his answer when his Sharingan came alive and a monstrous K-intent was unleashed. I'm tired of fighting. His outburst stunned not only his family but all their bannermen. His furious eyes glared at all of them, which made many flinch and made Tajima as well as Madara shut their mouths. Never before had they seen this look in Naruto's eyes. The look of a man haunted by death, war and misery along with unbearable pain. It's all I have done since I came into this world. I've killed men and women, I've burned clan heads alive, I have given orders that lead to the of entire clan to the last child. Yelled Naruto disgustedly. You're no son of mine, whispered Tajima in disbelief, not knowing how much it hurt his son. I am your son, father. I am more like you than any of your children. It is why I know that the best course of action for our people is to make peace. If not for ourselves, then for our children, pleaded Naruto. Suddenly, Madara got up from his chair and briskly walked towards his sibling. Everyone tensed and Kurama even stepped forward growling at the approaching Uchiha. To the beast's surprise, Madara not only ignored him but brushed past him to grab Naruto by the collar of his shirt. Naruto had never seen his brother so furious and disappointed at the same time. Madara would S for him without hesitation, but right now his brother looked about ready to K him. Give me one reason why I should not K you right now. Tell me why you are doing this, because I know you desire revenge as much as me for what they did to our brothers. For what they did to Izuna, whispered Madara fiercely, his Sharingan glaring heatedly at those of his brothers. Naruto looked at his brother and he saw Madara was not joking around. His brother loved him, but what he was asking was everything Madara had desired in his entire life. If he tried to take that away without a just reason, Madara would not K him, but no longer would his brother love him. A blow which would be the death of Naruto himself. Closing his eyes, he leaned closer so that he was near his brother's ear. You're going to be an uncle, brother. Madara stepped back as his eyes went wide, unable to believe what he just heard. Naruto had kept a lot of secrets from him over the years, the most dangerous being the fact that he had a Biju following him around for years. But this was even bigger than that. But it did explain why he wanted to make peace with the Senjus. You're not lying to me? Asked Madara seriously. No, whispered Naruto defeatedly. Kurama was gaping at his friend for revealing his most important secret to someone like Madara. He had never trusted the eldest son of Tajima. The thirst for power and revenge was clear to see in those eyes. While Naruto reminded the fox of Indra when the Uchiha founder was a boy, Madara reminded the fox of the power-hungry man Indra became. Still, for Naruto's sake he had tolerated Madara, but if he, or as a matter of fact anyone else, tried to harm the boy, then they would feel his true wrath. Kurama was not blind as to how much Naruto had S for this peace. How much the boy was risking to stop this unending war. No ordinary man could have done such things. In the boy, Kurama saw hope for humanity for the first time, and he would be damned if he let these fools take that away from him. But he was surprised when Madara, instead of lashing out at his brother, actually sighed. He looked a lot older right now than he actually was. Our people chose me as Hokage, brother. You think the Senjus will still want peace when they learn this? Would they still desire peace when the Uchiha don't give them leadership over the land of fire because father will S before he lets that happen? Asked Madara seriously. I'll find some way, brother. But I cannot do it alone. You once promised me that it will always be you and me against the entire world. For your sake, I remained loyal to this family and our clan even after what happened that night. I have fought for you my entire life, but now I need you to fight for me again, explained Naruto honestly, his eyes becoming moist. Madara flinched as he was reminded of the pact he and Naruto had made to each other when they were young boys who had just lost the brothers. Naruto had kept that promise just as he had kept every other promise, and so had Madara. But this went beyond everything Madara could have ever imagined. He looked at the fox and saw the beast was ready to jump at this should he attack Naruto, but the fox didn't have to worry. Without another word, the eldest son of Tajima walked away from the hall, much to Naruto's shock. The boy's shoulders slumped as he realized this was his defeat. You are all fools. His eyes widened when Kurama stepped forward and spoke for the first time. Every person in the room stared in shock on hearing the beast actually speak the common tongue. Tajima went pale and so did his sister. Kurama saw Naruto urging him not to reveal his true power, and it made him even more grateful to the boy. Even now, at the brink of losing his family and allies, Naruto had not revealed Kurama's identity to his people. It had been the Biju who had offered his help to crush the royal army, while Naruto wanted to find another way. Even against Madara, Naruto had not revealed Kurama's true mission or the extent of his powers. You truly kept your promise, Naruto Uchiha. Now it is time I keep mine. What are you? Whispered Tajima, bringing Kurama back from his thoughts. He ignored Naruto's pleading gaze to stop and instead walked towards the Uchiha clan head. Several guards bravely or foolishly stepped in his way but were waved away when Tajima dared to look the beast in the eye. Contrary to what you think, I am not a mindless beast. I was created by the Sage of Six Paths. I was there when your ancestor Indra was born. I was there when he waged war against his brother that has been going on till this day. And if you think for 1 second that I will butcher Senjus just because you want it, then you are a moron. Barked Kurama. What? Hissed Tajima furiously. I don't fight for the Uchiha and I don't fight for the Senjus either. I am loyal to my only friend who saw me as a person and not as a weapon. He remained loyal to me all these years and in turn I have remained loyal to him and will remain so until his last day. You all have lost a lot to this war, but so have the Senjus. The only thing that can come out of this war is the end of both clans and their allies, warned Kurama. I will not stop until I make those bastards kneel before me and then take their lives for what they did to my family. Roared Tajima. If looks could kill both the fox and the Uchiha patriarch should have burned each other to death. All the clan heads were silently watching this match, dreading the conclusion. Kurama restrained himself from this man right here, so blinded by hate was this human that he couldn't even make decisions that were best for the future of his children. Enough. Naori Uchiha walked towards her brother and laid a firm hand on his shoulder. Tajima glanced at her steely gaze and took a step back as the Uchiha woman stepped before Kurama. What do you want, Fox? Asked Naori calmly. At least hear out what the Senjus have to say. Try to make peace as your father did, urged Kurama, as both Tajima and Naori stiffened. How? I told you I have been here in this world for a long time. Your father was a good man and one of the finest Uchiha leaders I ever saw in history. What happened to him was wrong and you made the Senjus pay for that dearly. But if you continue this war, then your children will suffer just like you have. And so will their children after them, explained Kurama honestly. Naori glanced at her nephew and saw the pain in his eyes. She and Tajima had lost their siblings early in their life, but Madara and Naruto had watched the brothers when they were merely young boys themselves. Those two had seen more death and suffering than either she or her brother ever had. The only reason they had survived was the fact that they were strong and remained united. A fact which could change on the decisions made today. Very well, we'll listen to what the Senjus have to say, declared Naori. Sister, barked Tajima in anger, but was again silenced when she ignored him and looked straight at the fox. And if we don't find their terms satisfactory then the war continues, with or without your help Fox, warned Naori, earning a snort and a nod from the beast. That's all I can ask, grunted Kurama, as he marched back towards Naruto. The boy looked at his aunt but she shook her head making him sigh as he left the hall. Naori soon commanded the remaining clan heads to leave them and when they were gone she turned towards her furious brother. We need to talk. Hashirama had been nervously pacing in his room with his siblings watching him worriedly. They had won the capital and now the city was theirs. Many good men and women for that but the daimyo was a prisoner now along with his wife and daughters. The Fire Lord's sons chose to fighting than let their father be overthrown. Hashirama was too late to stop them from He had watched Naruto unleash the Biju against the royal army and Nara's. Hashirama had dreaded that the boy would wipe out all those people mercilessly like any Uchiha would. What happened next was not something Hashirama had expected from any Uchiha, much less Naruto. The boy gave the enemy a chance to surrender, saving thousands of lives and in doing so preserved the future of all the millions of families of those royal soldiers. He made the Uchihas back down and even got them into a room to negotiate peace with the Senjus. But now he was worried for the boy. Hashirama knew what kind of man Tajima was and many lords who followed him were just as ruthless and vicious. They could very well kill the boy for robbing them of their revenge. The only thing that gave Hashirama hope was Madara's presence in the room. As long as Madara was there nobody would dare lift a finger at his only surviving brother. He was brought out of his thoughts when the door of his room was open. His siblings unleashed their weapons when they saw the Senju guards outside had dropped unconscious as the striking form of Madara Uchiha approached towards them. Hashirama could not help but feel happy and even more worried at the same. It was so good to see his old friend but one look in his furious eyes was enough to make Hashirama tense. Without warning, Madara cast a scathing glance at Tsunade and Atama. Get out. The two Senjus blinked at the audacity of this Uchiha but Hashirama saw how tense his friend was and if disobeyed then he might very well resort to violence to make that happen. So he curtly gestured to his siblings to comply. They grumbled but obeyed his commands and walked outside the room. But Hashirama knew they were not far away, waiting to come to his aid if Madara turned hostile. It's good to see you, Madara, said Hashirama with a true smile. Wish I could say the same, grunted Madara, as he deactivated his Sharingan. Hashirama silently waited as he saw Madara pace across the room without speaking. This went on for a few long moments before the Uchiha looked at him seriously. My brother is a good man, Hashirama, said Madara, and was surprised when Hashirama nodded with an even wider smile. He's the best of your people, praised Hashirama, which only made Madara grimace. Good men don't survive in this world, Hashirama. Only the worst do, replied Madara sadly, as the faces of his brothers flashed before his eyes. Not if they have the support of others, countered Hashirama, earning a bittersweet chuckle from his dark-haired friend. Neither of us have changed. We are like ice and fire. Hashirama froze as realization struck him. The Uchihas were always like the fire, dangerous, swift and all-consuming. Their love was as fierce as their hatred, their sanity as great as their madness, their courage as great as their arrogance. The Senjus on the other hand were like ice, long-lasting, enduring and unending. Their silent fury as great as their gentle hearts, their calmness as dangerous as their ability to create storms. The savior shall be born by the joining of two ancient elements. Hashirama still remembered that old Toad's prophecy revealed to him a few years ago. The frog had been vague and smiled at him when Hashirama said he didn't understand. The only thing the geezer had told him to not fight fire with fire but calm it with ice. Hashirama hadn't understood then. But he did now. You once told me there is nothing in this world more precious to you than your last brother, said Hashirama seriously. It was then and it remains the same now, agreed Madara, despite the tense situation. This Uchiha had many faults, but if one thing Hashirama had always admired about Madara was his love for his siblings. There was not anything this man would not do for them. If we fight, then your brother's life will be in danger. You may have the Biju on your side, but you know what I am capable of, said Hashirama gravely. Madara chuckled. Now who's being why? Asked Madara amusedly. It had always been Hashirama teasing him about the same thing, and now that man was doing the very same thing himself. I'm serious, Madara. The Uchiha stopped laughing and looked at his friend. There was no doubt in Hashirama's eyes, his face set in stone. I'd like to take my chances, challenged Madara with a dark grin, just like fire. I have 3 siblings left, Madara. By the time we are done you'll have none, warned Hashirama, his voice as cold as ice. Madara paled and his eyes widened as he saw an image of Tobirama plunging his sword into Naruto's heart. His brother coughed, his eyes wide in shock and pain. Madara ran to him and caught him in his arms, watching his last brother gurgle painfully before falling silent forever. Time stopped for him as he kept on looking at that pale face of the jovial and sarcastic boy he had loved his entire life. A boy who meant everything to Madara, one who had 2 little girls waiting for him but would never see him again. He was brought out of his thoughts when he felt a gentle hand placed on his shoulder. Dazed, he looked up to see his old friend staring at him with a knowing and sympathetic look in his eyes. I know how you feel, Madara. Our families have torn each other apart for thousands of years and it will go on until we stop this madness. Don't make peace for me or anyone else either, do it for your brother, urged Hashirama. My people already declared me Hokage, Hashirama. Do you still want peace after that? Asked Madara skeptically. I'll admit it will be difficult to make my people accept peace with you as Hokage. But they will accept it, said Hashirama with conviction burning in his eyes. Why? Asked Madara hesitantly. Because I believe in you. Madara looked at this man in disbelief. His teeth felt dry, his lips trembled, and his wide eyes could only stare at this man with shock. In him, he saw that young boy with whom he had played stone throwing across the river, the same boy whom he had shared his desire for peace, the same person with whom he had wanted to create a new world where his brother and family would remain safe. What about the leadership of the Land of Fire? Who will replace the daimyo? Asked Madara worriedly. What do you mean? Aren't you supposed to lead now that you are named Hokage? Questioned Hashirama in confusion. Madara sighed. I am not a politician, Hashirama. I am a ninja. Ask me to defend these lands against armies and I will gladly do so. I might even excel every single time, but ask me to discuss trade and politics, and I'll make a spectacle of myself. I rarely compromise or negotiate, I command, explained Madara honestly. And I am too soft-hearted, which might work well in maintaining relations but disastrous when it comes to ruling, admitted Hashirama, receiving a disbelieving look from his friend. The people love you, Hashirama. They'll accept you as their new daimyo and I will support you if you let me be Hokage. I'll keep command over the military forces while you make sure that our lands and people prosper, offered Madara honestly. Your father will never agree to this, pointed Hashirama worriedly. Both of them became silent as their dilemma hanged over their heads like a sword. They were glad to put the differences aside for the sake of their family, but to make their people not just see reason but accept it was a grave challenge. There were hardliners on both sides who wanted war and would use the first chance to start it. How to arrive at a solution that would be acceptable to all if not welcomed? Hashirama was surprised when Madara smiled a little. What is it? I think I have a solution which will be acceptable to my father. But I might need quite a lot of help from you, said Madara hesitantly. Hashirama gave his friend an unwavering nod as he replied. Whatever you need to make this peace, Madara. The large courtroom that once belonged to the Fire Daimyo and his advisors was currently packed with almost every ninja lord of the country. Great and minor clans all were here representing the two most powerful factions of the world. Kurama couldn't even remember the last time there was such a gathering except for the sole purpose of killing each other. On the right side of the large hall sat Tajima Uchiha along with several clan heads representing Namikaze, Shimura, Aburame, Kurama, Yuhi, Hitaki, Yamanaka and several minor ninja clans. Together, they made up the largest military alliance in the elemental nations. On the left side of the large hall sat the tall figure of Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, Atama Senju along with the various allies representing Sarutobi, Inuzuka, Akamiki, and many other minor clans. Together, they were the most wealthiest and influential faction in the world. In the center of the hall was seated the Nara clan head and various former royal army commanders along with Naruto Uchiha. The said boy had decided to sit away from his people considering they were angry at him, to make him not feel alone. Both Kurama and Tsunade had joined him much to his surprise. Following their example, the Kinsguard had also taken positions with their leader rather than their faction. It was more of a shouting match and insult trading than any formal negotiations. Old feuds and rivalries could be seen openly with various clan heads trying to insult one another. Tsunade was more than pleased to see her brother released from captivity. At first the Uchihas were reluctant as they wanted to have more leverage. Surprisingly it was Naori Uchiha who reminded her people that the Senjus had honored their vow to return Dawn and they must honor their side of the bargain. It was not welcomed, but Tsunade had seen the power Naori wielded as she made sure Tobirama was released. It would seem Naruto was not the only Uchiha who really wanted to try for peace because that action had removed some of the bitterness between their factions. It was not much but it was a start. The arguments were going nowhere and the atmosphere was getting more heated until Naruto got up from his chair. He made sure to release a considerable intent that made everyone shut up one after another and look at him. My lords and ladies, all of us are missing the fact that together we overthrew a dynasty that had lasted for centuries. We did it because we were together and we can do more for our lands and people, but not if we try to kill each other rather than work together, urged Naruto, and was not surprised when one of his own bannermen presented his objection to the cause. The Daimyo is defeated, our war with the royals is over. We have a Biju that you can command to fight for us and defeat the Senjus once and for all, F the peace. Said Tobi Shimura passionately, earning cheerful nods from his allies and curses from the Senjus. Not surprisingly again it was a Senju ally who gave a befitting reply to that threat. Bring it on, you prick. We have defeated your kind for thousands of years and we'll do it again with Hashirama and his family. Biju or not, we can kick your asses back to the s-holes you came from. Barked Sasuke Sarutobi, earning loud roars of approval from his side. The main Uchiha and Senju families could only grimly watch as their supporters viciously attacked one another with more and more sharp words. The situation was about to go haywire until Dane Nara stood up. Despite being a former enemy, the Naras were respected as worthy foes by both factions and was the reason as to why everyone became silent and stared at the scarred clan head. Neither side will win if you continue to war. Even if some manage to survive on both sides, by that time the land of fire will be ruined. The civilian population will revolt against your atrocities and let me remind you they outnumber us 500 to 1. I don't know about you but against those many numbers none of my ninjas will survive. Warned Dane seriously. Tsunade was surprised when the man actually got the full attention of not just Hashirama or Madara but that of Tajima Uchiha as well. From what she could see, Dane was not taking any side but only pointing out the outcome if they continued their war now that the daimyo was not there to control the civilian population. Seeing that his audience were paying rapt attention, Dane decided to intensify his efforts to make these fools see reason. Both Uchiha and Senju along with their allies have forgotten the true purpose the Sage of Six Paths wanted you to do. But the Nara remember, said Dane honestly. He looked at the formal royal army commanders and when they all nodded their consent, Dane turned back towards the two factions who now looked very interested in what he had to say. The sage taught us ninjutsu so that we can maintain peace across the elemental nations and not wage war. The Nara have never allied with either side because you never serve the well-being of the people. We chose to serve the daimyo because he at least tried to give peace to all those who couldn't raise their voices against shinobi atrocities. The daimyo may be gone now, but the Nara clan and the former royal army commanders and soldiers are still duty-bound to protect those people, explained Dane loudly for everyone to hear. Neither the Uchiha or the Senju clan heads or as a matter of fact any other ninja clan have any right to claim leadership over people you have never thought about in your entire lives. But there is one person in this room who remembered the duty the sage wanted us to do. Tsunde's eyes widened when she saw not just Dane but all the former civilian army commanders rise from their seats and step before Naruto. The one who cared about the lives of people he didn't even know. The one who chose to do the right thing no matter how hard it was, the one who chose mercy and compassion over brutality. We don't care who he is or what his past was, we don't know what the future holds for us all but he's our leader from this day till the end of time. The Dragon King, declared Dane proudly. Naruto's heart stopped beating and his face turned extremely pale when Dane and all the civilian army commanders unleashed their swords and knelt before him. Shock rippled through the hall and everyone nearly started panicking but were fortunately stopped when Hashirama got up from his seat making everyone go silent again. I never thought one day there could be a chance for peace between our two factions. Both sides have done inhuman things to each other in the past, yet I took a chance upon Naruto Uchiha. I trusted that man with not just my family's future but that of this country because I knew he was a good and honorable man. I gave him the hand of my sister in marriage because I knew he has the courage to do the right thing, even if it meant giving his life. That is the kind of man who should not just lead us but this country and world towards the future the sage wanted us to develop. Naruto Uchiha brought an end to this war. He is the young dragon. Hashirama unleashed his sword pointing it straight at Naruto with pride and conviction in his eyes as he knelt declaring the words that would be forever remembered in history. The Dragon King, Tajima and Naori along with their allies were hardly able to believe the words Hashirama had just said about Naruto. Most of all none of them were ever prepared to watch the first Senju in history to willingly kneel before an Uchiha and swear fealty to their rule. Tajima's jaw nearly dropped to the floor as he glanced at Hashirama and saw nothing but pure conviction in his eyes as he made his decision. Majority of the Senju allies were also shocked and moved by their leader's declaration. The Uchiha patriarch glanced at his youngest son who was as pale as ice as he watched not just Hashirama but Dane Nara and all the civilian army commanders still kneeling before him with their swords. He had done the impossible. A boy who was destined to be nothing more than a spare heir had made two of the most ancient and noble clans who had never knelt before the Uchihas to do the impossible thing. No, they are not kneeling to the Uchiha clan. They are kneeling to him. Tajima's lifelong dream was to see the Senjus kneel and accept the Uchiha as their rightful rulers. If they didn't then he would exterminate him to the last man. It would be costly and devastating but he had prepared for that his entire life making alliances and creating the single largest military faction. Yet a boy who had no great social standing, armies, wealth or influence had accomplished a feat Tajima could only dream of. Most of all he did it with his pure heart. I am your son, father. I am more like you than you think. You're no son of mine. Naori watched as a lone tear fell from Tajima's eyes even as Madara got up with a determined look in his eyes. Both brothers glanced at each other, one with shock and the other with pride. Am I your brother? Asked Madara simply. Always, whispered Naruto in a choked voice. Naori gave a tearful smile when Madara unleashed his sword and pointed it at his brother with a smile. My sword is yours, now and always, promised Madara, as he too joined in kneeling beside Hashirama. Kurama could hardly believe the dream of his creator could very well be realized today. It had taken a very long time and could yet again fail as he watched Tajima rise from his chair. The Uchiha leader looked fierce and cold as he looked at his son, but there was also warmth and regret in those cold eyes. I could never fully believe in you, and I will regret that until my last day. A father is supposed to nurture their sons to become great men, but I failed in the task, yet even so you became the man you are today because of your own actions, said Tajima honestly. Naruto got up from his chair and looked at his father. Tajima Uchiha was a proud man, and to admit his mistake in front of all these people was not something to be taken lightly. Most of all, he saw the regret and apology along with pride in those dark eyes. No matter the differences or what people thought of this man, if there was one thing clear to Naruto was the fact that he loved his father. It's all in the past, father, whispered Naruto with a smile, even as his eyes became moist. Tajima nodded in relief as he got the message before he steeled himself and not just looked at his own bannermen but those of the Senjus as well. He cast one last glance at his sister, who stared at him with tearful eyes as she gave him a proud nod. I can never truly believe in any of these people. But I can believe in my sons. The future is uncertain for us all. However, the Uchiha clan shall devote itself to the well-being of this country as we have for thousands of years, pledged Tajima fiercely. Every person watched in pure shock as Tajima unleashed his sword before locking his eyes firmly with his youngest son. And I will stand behind my son. Silence reigned across the hall as the Uchiha clan head knelt side by side with Madara and Hashirama beside him. Kurama could only watch with an overjoyed heart as the three most powerful men in the world yelled in one voice. The Dragon King. Naruto could only watch in awe and shock as every ninja lord from both factions rose up and unleashed their swords. Together, they all knelt before him as one single call was declared for the first time in history of the elemental nations. The Dragon King. The Dragon King. The Dragon King. The declarations were getting louder and more passionate with every passing second as every person in the room took a leap of faith. In their eyes there was hope for a better future, and they were entrusting him with it. Suddenly, he felt overwhelmed by this new mantle, but as he glanced at Tsunade, she gave him a supportive smile. Most of all, he saw belief in her eyes for him. A lone tear fell from his eyes as he saw Kurama smile before the beast also knelt and joined all the ninja lords, proclaiming Naruto as his leader. The Biju's lifelong dream finally realized after thousands of years. In a way, history had unknowingly corrected a wrong done thousands of years ago. Even though every ninja lord declared for Naruto, it didn't change the fact that he was Indra's descendant. Through this declaration, the dragons had achieved their lifelong dream of making the Senjus submit. At the same time, the Senjus had managed to not only secure peace for themselves but also managed to make themselves vital to the success of this new regime through the marriage of Tsunade to the Dragon King. Through her, the sons of Ashura would always play a vital role in the ruling of the elemental nations, even if they officially didn't have one of their own as the supreme leader. Tsunade widely smiled as she watched all the ninja lords still proclaiming her future husband as their king. Not only did she feel happy for Naruto but for herself as well, because the war was finally over, and if things worked out then soon she would no longer be a princess in name but an actual queen herself. She looked at Naruto and saw he was still trying to accept what was happening before his eyes. For one who had no claim to power, he was now perhaps the most powerful leader in history after the Sage of Six Paths. However, her smile faltered as she caught a pair of eyes that were full of resentment and bitterness. Even as all the ninja lords were making the declaration clear again and again, Tsunade didn't miss several bitter people flocking around that one person who was glaring at Naruto. His lips said the words, but the tone of his voice left little to imagination about his feelings towards his new leader. The Dragon King. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.